Well, good morning and welcome to Kids Church for September. We're sitting here in the vicarage because of COVID-19. We don't have access at this time to my office and we only have limited access to the church. Our theme for September is Thomas, Doubting Thomas, as we would refer to him so often when we have the Easter story. Now this morning I have brought with me 4 things that we need to think about in regard to Thomas. 4 things that will help us to understand something of who Thomas is and what he did. The first of these is my friend Sergey. Now we've met Sergey before. Sergey's my meerkat and we've seen him a few times. And so I brought Sergey with me because Sergey represents those things that are curious. Whenever there's action near a meerkat, they stick their head up and they look around and they get very excited by all that is going on. So I brought Sergey. The next thing I brought with me is a map. Well, a book of maps. And you'll understand in a little while why it is that I brought a book of maps with me to help me understand something of who Thomas is. The next thing I have brought is a picture of a dish. It's a chicken and halloumi roast dinner, and I've brought that with me as well. And finally, I brought a question mark. Well, a picture of a question mark anyway. So there you go. They're the 4 things I brought. Sergey, my meerkat, a map, a picture of a dinner that I could cook, and then a question mark. How do these relate to Thomas? How do we see something about Thomas in these 4 things? Well, first of all, when it came to the meerkat, as I mentioned, meerkats are curious things. They want to understand, they want to see, they want to witness. And we see that in the life of Thomas. Thomas, the disciple of Jesus, wanted to know what was happening, wanted to be involved, wanted to see all that was going on. So that's why I brought with us Sergey today. Then I brought my map and my book of maps. And one of the features of Thomas is he wanted to know how he got direction. When Jesus was talking about heaven, Thomas turned to him and said, "Lord, how do we get to heaven? What is it that we must do?" Thomas was someone who really wanted to have direction and to have an understanding. I brought the picture of the food. It's a nice looking chicken dish that you could cook in the oven. And someone gave me that recipe and they challenged me and they said, "I bet you can't make that, Mark." They doubted in my time and my ability. Well, let me say, I made that dish and I'll make it again. It's simply spectacular. And even I could manage it. So these people doubted my cooking ability, yet I was able to do it. And we remember, don't we, that doubting Thomas was someone who did have doubts in life. He doubted that Jesus was alive until he could see and he could touch him. And then finally I brought the question mark, because the question mark reminds us that it's okay to ask questions. It's good to ask questions. It's good to learn and to inquire, to interact and to ask these questions. So these 4 things fit into the story of Thomas. Now, as we look together at the Bible and the story of Thomas, we discover that he was an incredibly loyal friend of Jesus. He was willing to go wherever Jesus wanted him to go, to do what Jesus wanted him to do. And he wanted to encourage other people to do the same. But he also was someone who asked questions. He never took anything for granted. And that's why he said, "Lord, show us what we must do to be part of your family, to enter heaven, to be part of your kingdom." And then, of course, we know that he had his doubts. But when he saw, when he witnessed, then he believed. The story of Thomas that we read together reminds us that it's okay to ask questions. It's good to ask questions and to have inquiring minds. It's good not to take everything for granted. It's good to ask lots of questions. Thomas also reminds us that it's good to have doubts. It's okay to have doubts. We can be doubting people and inquire more, because that leads to us growing in our understanding, growing in our faith. For when we have these answers, then we have great faith. Now, not a lot's known about Thomas in the end, but we do know that history tells us that after the death and the resurrection of Jesus and his ascension back to heaven, Thomas was scattered from Jerusalem, and he ultimately ended up around India, sharing the good news of God's amazing love. All because he was a man who asked questions. He was a man who had doubts. But when he got the answers to these questions, he then believed. There's a bit of Thomas in all of us. So let's ask questions. Let's get answers to our doubts. And let's do what God would call us to do. May God richly bless you, your families, and your loved ones. Amen.